Hey, here is proof that we've not been canceled. We are back for another week of the AfterWord. Thank you for listening.
Do we have a contract with a publishing company?
Maybe we do.
Yeah.
I just don't know about it.
All right.
We have tons of sponsors, I think, though.
We have at least one good sponsor.
And this company is going to give something away this podcast for sure. So be listening for that.
Yeah, be listening. The seventh caller will get something. We'll tell you what that is and the details of how to get it later.
I'm actually trying to think of what it is they're gonna give away today.
It's
going to
come to mind. Yeah.
When it does, we're going to share it.
Yeah.
And, thanks for listening. The goal of this is not to give things away necessarily, although that is fun. We want to talk about the passage that was preached the day before, see some layers there, maybe some application, talk about it more. And then we also want to see for sure God's glory in this passage and how our affections for him are raised. So that's why we're doing this. Hopefully it is effective to that end. I'm Eric, one of the pastor elders here at the Town Church. I'm joined by Vince Black, one of the elder pastors here at the Town Church, and also Kirsten Black, joined by her today. So here's this is kind of fun. I want to start asking you, our listener, what questions we should start with the podcast. Like, are there things you're interested about? Things you're curious how we would answer? These are supposed to be fun questions. The question this week is from our listener. And the question is this: if you could go back to any phase of life, which would it be and why? Any phase of life, which one would it be and why?
That's a deep question. Thank you, listener.
You're buying time. You have no idea.
I can start.
Oh,
I'll give you some time to think. I think I'd go back to when we were newly married and living in Chicago. It was pre-kids, but we were through our first year of marriage, which I remember as very difficult. Vince remembers as glorious, so I don't know who was right.
I just remember it as being normal.
Yeah, I don't remember it that way. We had a lot of learning to do.
You did.
Okay.
That's probably really true. No, that's really true. But just like, I have such fond memories. We used to make waffles on Saturday mornings and sit in bed and eat waffles and watch movies. And like, I can't wrap my brain around doing something like that now.
So you'd go back and relive that or do it differently?
Oh, I don't know if I'd do it differently. Maybe relive it.
Oh, wait, what was the question?
No, she's right. She's on.
So maybe you were the one who had to learn things.
Yeah, well, I'm still learning. I confessed that yesterday. What
phase of life would you go back to and why?
And relive it, not change it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not saying, okay. I thought the question was what era of life would you go back to and do something differently?
Maybe that's the question for next week. This week, though, what like the golden time of your life so far that you want to go back to? If I'm interpreting this question correctly.
Huh. Yeah, I'll need some more time.
You'll have to ask the listener for clarification if you got it right.
Well, that ends our episode. We'll wait for the listener to give us more. Do you have an answer? You don't even have an answer.
I don't know. I really like my college years. Cassie, this is not supposed to be offensive to you. It's before we were married.
So before you met Cassie, good. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. College years just had a lot of community built in. I felt like I kind of knew what I was doing, maybe. Seemed like there's less, I don't know, difficulty in life in general. I don't know. College years seemed pretty good. Like I liked my dorm. I liked the guys I was in.
I think college is a season where you think you know a lot and you think you know what you're doing, but you just have a lot of confidence, but you don't actually have as much knowledge and experience as you think you have. At least that was my experience. So you're an adult, but you have a lot to learn, and so things don't feel as heavy.
There were air quotes around adult there, by the way, for the listener.
There was not. No, you're technically an adult. I don't want to offend college students if they listen to this, but like I knew a lot as a college student. I actually didn't know as much as I thought I knew.
Yeah, and there's something about that ignorance that is amazing.
Yeah, it's a really sweet time.
I wonder if what I want to do is go back when I was more ignorant in some ways, or not as, I haven't been around the block as many times maybe. There's something nice about that. Anyway, we should stop that. Vince, is there a time in your life you like to go back to and why?
I'd like to go back before this question.
It's too late.
That's it. I don't know what it would be.
Kirsten, I'm sure, is involved somehow.
Oh, so involved. I am trying to think through. I don't really have anything.
What time in your studio, your art studio?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think probably though. I was thinking, listening to your answer, Eric, about those times of just sort of carefree, and I think that goes before college for me. That's probably high school, because I didn't do any schoolwork ever.
You did. You just procrastinated.
No, I
until
didn't
the
do
night
it.
before.
No, I didn't do it.
His motto was D for degree.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Here's a time for an honest question. So what GPA then did you graduate with if you did no schoolwork?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I don't know how honest I want to be here.
So it wasn't
I'm not condoning any of my behavior from high school.
But you did graduate.
I did graduate, and I made okay grades, but I didn't do any of the work for those grades.
I'm cutting all this out.
Sorry.
Are you quietly saying you cheated your way through high school?
That's not really the point. But yeah, I did.
So high school is probably the time that you go back to.
Yeah, I had no responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I did everything I wanted to do. I was running all the time. Went to school so I could get a good nap between runs. And yeah, didn't have a job, didn't have any bills to pay. I don't know.
I think we should also say that just because our answers were the way that they are doesn't mean that we hate life right now.
That's
right?
That's a good point. Although the rain is starting to get at me a little bit.
Yeah.
Starting to get a little bit depressed. Sorry.
Should we work through that now?
Yeah, let's work through that online here publicly with everyone.
Hey, thank you for that question, our listener. So if you are another listener or the same one and you have another question, I'm going to be asking you here.
We only have one listener. This listener has run out of questions.
Yeah. What we've actually done is run out of intro questions to come up with. So your help is helpful. Okay. Vince, give us a recap. Nehemiah 11 and
12.
Yeah, from yesterday.
Some of 11 and some of 12. Yep. Starts with, so everything's been rebuilt. The people have scattered out into their own towns, their own villages. Chapter 11 starts with this call for the people to come back. They need a way for people to be back in the city. So the leaders cast lots, choose a tenth of the people to come back into the city to live there, to be in the city, and for the way I put it is for restoration to flow out of the city from those people. From that point on, it's a list from verse 3 through half of 12. It's a list of people who have come back. So all of the different groups of people who have come back, priests and Levites and singers and families and family members all come back. So you get about halfway through chapter 12, and it goes into celebration. There's the dedication of the wall. It's a big celebration of all of the things that God has done in the rebuilding of the wall, the city, and the people being back. So there's celebration that comes from it. There's sweet moments. We'll get at some of this, I'm sure, in some of the questions, but the joy of the people because of what God has done, and that joy being far-reaching out into the areas around them, and for that to be something that was compelling to the people who are watching. So that's that. Chapter 12, chapter 13 next week.
Which is the final.
The final. And here's a little plug. If you have been thinking about things, God's been teaching you, you've been learning, you have something to share, we'd love to hear from you next week.
Yes. There will be opportunity to share Sunday morning.
Eric has prepared a dance, an interpretive dance for everyone.
It's very interpretive.
Reliving his college years.
I wonder if we could set up next week, we could do the AfterWord live.
Oh.
And that we could have people up and come and do this live.
I can't edit it, though.
We could edit it.
If it's live.
No, but we could edit it down. But anyway, just give it some thought.
I've given it lots of thought already.
All right. Never mind. Bad idea.
That would cut into his dance routine.
Give me my time, man.
All right.
Okay, so they cast lots. 1 out of 10 comes back to live in the city, which is totally disruptive to their life. They were settled outside the city, and now they're being directed, required to come live in the city. So they're giving up everything they had outside the city. Now they're actually moving into the city. I want to think about how we apply that today. This was a piece of the push yesterday in the sermon to be able to leave or go when God calls you to go, or to stay put and be content if God is not calling you to go. So you aren't always thinking about what's next. So in our context, very seldom are we required to move by some outside force. Maybe you find a job, maybe you're in the military. So there's certain examples. But how do we think about that today? Even for us of the town church, how do we hold things with an open hand so that either we can give it away if God directs us to that, or to keep it and to be content in it? So here's my question. I'm curious for you two personally.
And you. Questions coming back to you also.
I've learned that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How have you discerned God either calling you to give something away or to go? Like, how did you know that was God calling you? Or the reverse. How have you discerned God saying, I want you to keep that, or I want you to stay where you are?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my mind automatically goes to, and I don't know if this is a great example or not, because it's going to take your question a little bit of a different direction, but it goes back to our decision to come here, to move to Fort Collins, to plant a church. And the reason I'll take it a little bit differently is that we had a desire to be here, and I think we can often shove desire out of the equation and think, well, our desire is just selfish, or our desire is not holy. You know, if God's calling us to do something, it's probably going to be hard. So we should go for the hard thing, or stay for the hard reason, whatever that is. But after quite a bit of prayer and thinking, but also just looking at an atlas, a paper atlas that we opened up. Yeah, that's right. We opened up on our kitchen table and looked at where would we like to live and where do we want to raise a family, and then began to make steps forward in that. So I think we often shut down these, well, I have a desire to do this because it can feel selfish. But God, we also have to remember that God gives us desires. And he also is a God who gives good gifts. So I don't want to shut that idea down. However, I think we need people around us. So from that point, we took it to the elders of the church that we were a part of, and we said, here's something we're considering. And this is a direction we'd like to go. We have a desire to do it, but we don't want to do it outside of what the people who we see as those put in care over us would affirm or deny. So we took it to them, and their prayer and thought through it was an affirmation of us to come. So
you listened to some of your own desires, you use your mind, some strategy I'm sure was involved, but then you also submitted to others to get their input.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think often when we're feeling something stirring in us, a place to start is, am I feeling dissatisfied with something here? And if I'm feeling dissatisfied, that can flow into the question of, what am I worshiping? It can flow into the question of, am I longing for something more than I'm longing for God? And so is my dissatisfaction with where I am the thing that's leading me, or is it actually the Lord leading me? And so for me, I often, I'll talk my job with Acts 29. I had a real passion and desire to care for pastors' wives. And a lot of that was born out of our own struggle and my own hurt, and a lot of my isolation in church planting and even in ministry. And so God just put that on my heart, and it just would not go away. And so then we just started kind of putting out some feelers and asking, would this be a place that the Lord would be leading me? And then I basically wrote up a proposal and submitted it to Acts 29 and said, this is what we need. and they were all in. And so, and then as that season started coming to a close, it was still a sense on my heart of like, I think the Lord is closing this door, and I think it's time for me to step away. And so again, seeking counsel, asking others about that, and just trusting that when the Lord closes the door, He's going to take care of you. And it didn't make sense financially for us for me to leave that role, but I just knew it was time. And so sometimes all the pieces are not in place, and sometimes it's not going to make sense. But I would say, like Vince said, finding where you're feeling led, and then inviting other people into that process. Not having already made up your decision, and then just telling people after the fact.
Finding people to affirm what you already decided.
Yeah. Like that is a huge piece we've seen here in ministry and in the church in particular, is that people will make a decision and say, here's what we're doing, and they've not invited anybody to speak into it. I think because they just want to make the decision that they want to make. And I think often people are scared that somebody's going to speak against it. And so they make a decision and move on without inviting people into it. And so I think that's a key thing, is making sure that you invite other people that you trust to have a voice there, and to really speak into what you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you're feeling led.
Yeah.
That does seem to be key here, because you mentioned at the very beginning, ask what you're worshiping. We see here in Nehemiah, it was clear they're coming back to the city for the worship of God. The city is supposed to be repopulated. Restoration is going to flow out of the city. They need more people in there. The leaders are already there. We need more people in there. So it's all about the worship of God. And so as we are trying to discern these things, is a heart check in one sense. What are we truly worshiping? And then it could be a good diagnostic if we're holding it with an open hand or closed hand, right? If we're actually asking other people and genuinely going to listen, that is an indication you're holding with an open hand.
Yeah.
If we're not, or we're just trying to get a rubber stamp, that's a pretty good indication your hand is already closed. You've already made your decision. You're not willing to potentially change that.
Yeah, we're told in verse 2 that the people willingly offered to live in Jerusalem. So there's a willingness there. I think that's what I go back to, is like, just to put it on the example I gave, we had a desire to come to Fort Collins. We had a desire to move to an area where we saw some need and plant a church. It was a desirable area to live. We brought it to the elders for their insight, for their wisdom. And the question that now I look back and ask, based on Nehemiah 11, verse 2, is, would I have been willing to listen to the elders no matter what they would have said?
Yeah.
Would I have willingly submitted to either their affirmation or their denial of our moving forward? So there's a willingness there that I think we have to look at as well. Kirsten, you touched on it. We've all touched on that, but just that willingness piece too. Are we willing to stay? Are we willing to do something we may not want to do and move forward? Another thing that comes to mind, this gets a little more vulnerable for us. In the last 6 or 8 months or so, that we have had a real temptation. At least a sort of a gut reaction temptation to just pack everything up and get out of here. Up in part because of just, it's painful. There's a lot of grief associated with being here. And that thought, while it's there often, it's there in a fleeting kind of way. I don't think we truly want to leave. In large part because we have a desire, we sense a calling to stay. Our people are here. Our church family is here. Our biological family is here, and so we do sense a calling to stay as well. Stay here. So anyway.
Yeah, I think when I left the gathering yesterday, that was my biggest takeaway that I'm still trying to think through, is the willingness piece.
Yeah.
Because it's not just moving, right? Like all the things I'm holding on to, am I holding on to them with an open hand or not? And I know for me, over time, the tendency is to close my fist around whatever those things are that I don't want to change or I want to see it go a certain way.
Yeah.
And I have to intentionally pray or think through these things to keep that hand to be open.
Right.
And so that's a tendency I have to continually fight. And I have not thought about that in a while. So I need to actually reflect, I think, over pieces of my life and what is it that I'm actually holding closed-fisted.
Well, I think closed-fistedness reveals worship.
Yeah.
You know, that for me, wanting to leave is because I want to leave behind the memories. I want to leave behind the grief. I want to leave behind the hard stuff. I want comfort. I don't want every corner to be a trigger. And that's what it is right now living here. And so, and there's always a piece of me that's worshiping comfort. And so, or worshiping kind of just what feels good. And so I think that we can always look at, if we are close-fisted with things, that is revealing a heart of worship and what we're worshiping above God. I mean, we're made to worship. We worship all day, every day. That's what we're made to do. And so whatever's taking up the bulk of our thoughts, our time, our resources, our energy, like that is the thing that we're worshiping. And often those things get out of balance and we worship those things above God.
Yeah.
I think we have to, in the context of Nehemiah, remember what's going on too. And these people are being called together. They're not called as individuals. They're called together. A tenth of them are called together to be about something bigger than themselves. And that's a piece that I think we probably often overlook. That our calling to a place, or our calling to leave a place, or our calling to stay in a place, actually impacts a greater thing than we often think through. So if I decide, hey, I'm moving, well, that impacts a lot. But we don't think about that because I want to move. I want to get out of here. But it impacts a lot of people here. We've invested in a lot of relationships, and we have invested time and energy that has taken a lot of time to get to. And so I think we can often overlook the fact that there are ripple effects, and it's something bigger than just, I don't know, I think I'll move, or I think I'll stay, or I think I'll make this decision. So.
Mm-hmm. I bet personalities play a large part in it too, because I am hesitant to move. So it's going to take more to get me to move or do something different. And maybe for other personalities, it would take more to make people stay and be content with where they are, right? So as I'm thinking back, God doesn't do this often, but some of the big moves in my life or changes in career, God had been preparing my heart for a while beforehand. And so there's just little things I'm starting to pick up on in my heart that I start to maybe release, or I don't know how else to put it, like feel released where I am, or start to aggressively think about something else. And when it's time to make that move, for me anyway, it's always been really, really clear. This is the next step. I don't know the next 3 steps, but I knew that this is the next step. And so I think part of that might be because I don't like to move. I don't like tons of change.
Yeah.
Like I just want to be where I am forever. And so God starts to make some of those changes in my heart. And then once I'm thinking about when I came on staff of the church, it was not a long time, but it was several months where I started to actually desire to be on staff of a church, which I never desired. Yeah. Never want to be a paid pastor of a church. But that started to change. And then I actually became confident that a job was going to open up here that I would be able to be a part of. But I didn't tell anybody because I was a lay elder at the time, right? So I wanted to look like I'm somehow manipulating things behind the scenes. So I didn't tell anybody that I think God's leading that way. But, I mean, sure enough, it led that way. Yeah. So that's been repeated several other times in my life, too, where God has started to shift or make some rumblings in my heart that I'm starting to pay attention to now because it's been somewhat consistent for me anyway.
And I think sometimes when we react in a way that's not in line with our natural inclinations, that can be a clear leading from God. I mean, I saw that when we were going to come here and plant the church. Vince went to a church planting conference and he came home. And like for me, a new grocery store is an adventure. Like I'm kind of wired like you, Eric, in that I'm a homebody. I love being home. I don't like change. And Vince came home from this church planting conference and said, I really feel like the Lord is leading us to be praying about planting a church. And my response was, well, yeah, let's pray about it. Like it wasn't, usually my response give him all the reasons why that's not a good idea. And so it was a very atypical response from me. And yet God had been preparing me for that. And so I think sometimes God does work ahead of time on our hearts to prepare us for those things.
Yeah.
Have either of you been in a situation where you have sensed God's leading in something and you have either tried to rearrange your thinking about it or ignore it or move in a different direction?
What do you mean?
Well, since you were just saying, like, there are times when, like, coming on staff here, God had been preparing you for that. Yeah. Has there ever been a moment where you sense God's preparing you for something and you try to do everything you can to avoid that, dodge it, not go in that direction?
For sure. We're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
You know this story, so I'm not exposing anything. But when Vince and I were dating, we were really different people. Like we still are, but we've gotten a little closer to the center than like I was very, very, very structured and Vince was not. Like he had a pair of overalls for every day of the week. Mm-hmm. When he came to meet my parents, he brought his hot pink New Kid on the Block duffel bag.
Of course he
did. And like I was not like that. And so when we were dating, I was like, this guy's just too weird. He's just too weird. And so I said, we just need to take a break. We're not going to talk for, I don't know what it was, 2 weeks, a month. Yeah. It was a pretty long time. And really what I was planning on doing was taking that time to figure out how I was going to break up with him because I was like, he is just really weird, and I'm looking for like a golf shirt kind of guy, not an overall kind of guy.
This is the time period that she wishes she could go back to.
No. This, but anyway, I wanted to honor the Lord with that time, and so I spent every lunch period during that time that we weren't talking, fasting and praying, and just really taking time to ask the Lord, like, this guy's weird. I don't think I want to marry him. And the only thing I can say is when the Lord is leading me, if I'm going the wrong direction, I have a strong like restlessness in my spirit. I just know that it's not the right decision. Yeah. And I can't point to it and say, this is why. I just know that this is how the Lord is leading. And as the more I fasted and prayed and the more I sought the Lord, it was just this sense of like, okay, no, this is the right thing. And really, I think it was that I was having to give up everything that I had kind of pictured as far as like a nice, neat box, and God, I needed someone like Vince in my life to help me loosen up. And, and he was so different from me that felt really uncomfortable. And so yeah, I mean, I was intending to do one thing and the Lord really led a different direction for me. And I felt a lot of peace after that time of just really taking time to seek the Lord and fast and pray and ask him what direction to go.
There you go. And the rest is history. I wish I still had that New Kids on the Block duffel bag. I'd use it.
It's probably worth something now.
He still has his overalls.
I do.
Glory be.
I've seen them. You pull them out still.
Yeah, I'll wear them.
Is it the same ones from back in the day?
One of the pair.
Oh my, he's had multiple pairs.
No.
Every day of the week.
No,
he had a pair for every day of the week.
I had to get rid of some of them.
You're an artist, though, so you get a lot of pass for that, I think.
Huh.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next question.
For our listener, would you please buy Eric a pair of overalls? That's what I'm hearing.
So they can take up space in my closet.
Next to his other blue shirts.
I love blue. It's good for my eyes, guys, okay? For me, the thing that came to mind, I had fought the idea of any sort of pastoral thing for probably 8 to 10 years growing up. Middle school, high school, college, until finally there became a night in college. I've shared this with some of you. I was in the shower. This is a long story leading up to this. I was in the shower. I remember praying to God. I remember saying, if you want me to go to seminary and be a pastor, I'll do it. First time ever came out of my mouth. First time I've ever prayed that. Actually, I want whatever you want, God. And it felt like, this doesn't sound kind of weird, but it felt like a wall around me crumbled. I got out of the shower and I know I was going to seminary. Now, at the time I thought going to seminary meant you're going to become a pastor. I got to seminary and realized, I can still get off the hook. Like you can be a I don't know, a professor or nonprofit or something. So that the story still goes longer than that. But that was one time I fought. Didn't even realize I was fighting the whole time. Finally opened up my hand a little bit, and God like 180'd it in the moment. That doesn't always happen, but that was one very clear instance of that.
I remember when I first met you and talked to you about, oh, you have a degree from a seminary? Did you want to do ministry? And your response was, no, never. I never want to be involved in ministry.
Never say never.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Nehemiah. They had a willingness.
Yeah.
There was a willing posture of the people to do what God was leading them to do. And we see God leading them to do it through the casting of lots. I mean, they trusted the process. Many times a God-ordained process of casting lots. It's not something that I would prescribe now. Don't roll the dice in your big decisions. But it was a way in which God used back then to lead people. So they trusted God.
And this willingness piece is really the crux of this conversation, isn't it? Like, if you're facing a big decision or think you know which way you're going to go, the question to ask your heart is, are you actually willing to either change direction if God would have you change it, or continue to push on if God would have you there? Are you holding it with an open hand? And some of the ways to diagnose that is, what are you worshiping? Ask God, what are you worshiping? Are you willing to submit to others and get genuine feedback from other people as you discern that?
It's good.
I want to talk a little bit here about Nehemiah chapter 12, verse 43. I think this is fascinating. I'm not sure what my question is here yet, so I'll preface that with this. But I want to read this verse. I want to talk about it a little bit. So verse 43 out of chapter 12. So this is after all the lists of all the people who were involved have been written. And then here's verse 43. And they offered great sacrifices that day and rejoiced, for God had made them rejoice with great joy. The women and children also rejoiced, and the joy of Jerusalem was heard far away. So all of this work that they're doing, all the calling that God has done, all the people involved, in a context where this people has suffered, right? The result was incredible joy that God gave them.
Yeah.
There's something profound there. I'm not sure exactly how to tease that out, so I don't know what my question is, but I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, that strikes me too. This is the problem with two gatherings. In the first gathering, I didn't bring this up as much as in the second, because I think it hit me in the first gathering. It also depends on who's in the different gatherings, because I look out at, on a sea of people, and I see different people who I know are walking through different things. And so in the second gathering, I talked about this a little bit more, that these people had gone through a lot. I mean, for these people who had come back, all they have known probably is captivity and exile. Yeah. And still their response in what God had done was rejoicing. And so I think I relate that to how we've walked through quite a bit as a church over the last several months. A lot of people have walked through some really hard things, and many are still walking through some really hard things. And still there are moments of joy that God can bring about for lots of different reasons. So I think that's where my mind goes here. They're able to do this, but why? Because God had made them rejoice with great joy. It's got to be that. The ways that we would try to find it would be happiness, not joy, would be circumstantial, right? Oh, it's finally not raining today. That changes my attitude. But it's God who is the one who brings joy.
So this is a very personal question to you, both you, Kirsten and Vince. You guys have walked through a whole lot of suffering the last year and a half plus. Are there moments you can look back in the midst of it and say, I experienced joy, or is that really hard to see right now, still in the middle of grief, looking back?
That's a good question.
I would say I can look back and see joy, but joy is different than what I would have expected it to be. I think I often confuse joy and happiness. And happiness is always based on circumstances. Joy is based on who Christ is and what he's done. And as you were asking that question, I was looking up Romans 5, where Paul says, "But we rejoice in our sufferings," which I think shows that joy, there can be joy in the midst of suffering. Like it's not happiness. It's something greater than our circumstances. And so I've had joy in moments of knowing that Ezra knew the Lord, and that I think the resurrection has a different meaning to me now than it did before. Vince and I are just looking at each other crying. So I think joy is different than what I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there were moments of joy, and I do think they were truly joy because they were things that God had given us, just time as a family. I think when we were all together, when Ezra wasn't in the hospital and we were all together, I think there were moments there of joy. That was from God. I can remember a couple times, even when Ezra was able to be home and we were able to be at church together, there were some moments, although it was challenging, there were some moments of joy with that. I think in the middle, and this is probably for everybody who's walked through hard things, really hard things, in the middle of it, I think what I've found is that joy comes in much smaller things than you ever assume they would have come from. So a simple sitting around the fireplace as a family can bring a great amount of joy in the middle of really hard times. Whereas when things are going well and things aren't hard, sitting around the fireplace is boring and whatever. But does that make sense? Like, I think joy comes in much less significant times because God is present and God's given that gift. So,
thanks for answering that. And that was a really personal question. Thank you for answering that. I'm sure our listener can relate to to a large extent with different things our people are going through. In the context here in Nehemiah, God has given the people a joy because their worship, big picture, has been restored to a large extent, right? We got the walls rebuilt, people coming back to the city. It's been a team effort in a lot of different ways, and God has given them an exceeding joy around a worship of who He is. And so I even think about, for us as a church, we worship together corporately on Sunday mornings. What does it look like for God to give us a joy that's exceeding in this sort of way? It feels like this is an over the top kind of joy, where people are hearing it from afar away of what God is doing in our midst. Are there? I don't know what my question is there. Like, how do we? I don't know.
I think
recognize it or work that way or.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know what you're asking, or I maybe not. Correct me if I'm going the wrong direction. But I wonder if, similar to what Kirsten and I just answered, I wonder if so much of their joy that had come from God was there because of what they had faced.
Yeah.
So had they been living in Jerusalem and things were going well and the streets were paved with gold and everything, everybody was happy and content and all of that, I wonder if we would read verse 43, and the people moved on with life, but it's in the shadow of some really hard stuff that they've seen the hand of God in a very clear way. And they know, that had to come from God. And any joy we have right now is absolutely from God because what we've walked through has not been a joyful season.
Yeah, it's interesting because as I think about my personal engagement in worship on a Sunday morning, it is totally different if I have something front of mind that I'm walking through that's challenging versus it's just kind of normal. Like my life just feels kind of normal. It's totally different. The the depth of the gospel is different. What we sing is different. The way things hit me are completely different.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's something similar.
Yeah, and I think that goes. I don't think you meant to do this, but I think that goes to one of the things I brought up yesterday was that comes to preparation.
Yeah.
I think we all have those things. You just said if there's something front of mind that would. Those things are there all the time, but have we taken the time to prepare our hearts to get to a space of seeing the depths of our sin or the depths of our sorrow in light of the greatness of who God is?
It gets way more personal that way.
Have we really taken the time to prepare our hearts to do that? Or do we walk into here on a Sunday or wherever? I don't want to make it just about the Sunday gathering, because the Christian life is not just about the Sunday gathering, but to just make that application, do we come in here on a Sunday morning and think, I don't know, maybe I'll meet with God, maybe I won't. Here we go.
Yeah.
It for me, and I know I'm in a very different position than the remainder of the church being in preaching, but that last song right before the greeting, I spend so much of that last song just praying that God would help me, praying that He'd fill me with the Spirit, that He would help me to see my own sin, but also how I can lead our people. And so it's a lot of me preparing my heart to step into what I'm about to step into. And I understand I'm in a different position than the normal church goer, but that same kind of preparation I think is extremely valuable for us.
I think sometimes preparation is just showing up.
Yeah.
It's just doing the next thing. It's being willing to be there even when it doesn't feel good, even when it's hard, even when you're wrestling through things with God. I think the enemy wants us to believe that everyone around us is doing great and loves being at church and loves worshiping and is having an amazing experience. And inside, I've been at church many times where inside my heart is just broken and I'm struggling, and I look around and everybody just looks like they're so full of joy. And I think that it's easy to get discouraged and think, well, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to be like these people. I'm never going to have that experience necessarily. And yet I think often it's just showing up. It's just being faithful to show up to the things that God is calling you to do, to what faithfulness looks like, and then trusting that the Spirit's going to work in ways that you can't understand. And it's not often quick either. It's not often that he works quickly. But I think that over the course of time, you do see that God is faithful and meets you in those spaces. But it's also hard a lot of the time.
So being present, you have to be present for that, and at least available to engage, present and I don't even want to say ready, because sometimes we don't walk in ready, but if we're walking in, that's at least a step into a place of knowing that the Spirit can use whatever the gathering is going to look like to help us see more of God. There are many times I know what songs Justin's going to do. I know the order, the order that we're going in, but a lyric, a line in a song will hit me in a way that I had not expected. I think in part because I'm there. I'm available. I'm present, and it hits. And is that what you're getting at? Is like just being present sometimes is the best first step.
Yeah, I just think it's easy to get discouraged, and and you say, well, you have to prepare your heart for worship, and it's easy to think, well, I'm not prepared. I'm in a bad place. I'm not doing well. My focus can be so much on myself that it's easy to buy into the deception of it'd just be better if I didn't go because my heart's not in a good place. And I think that's what the enemy wants us to believe. And and I even think that in my own spiritual disciplines, the number of times that I'm in a season that feels really, really dry and I just don't sense the Lord at all. And I've had seasons being years and years and years of that. I often hope that seasons are a couple months, but I mean,
Yeah.
I've had years where I have felt just distance from the Lord and silence and confusion about what's going on. And yet I think what is honoring to the Lord is just keep showing up, like just keep pressing in and know that he's going to do something at some point. So don't give up. Like, don't give up showing up. Don't give up continuing to fight and continuing to press in, even though it's hard and it's not, your expectations aren't being met. But God's up to something in the silence and in the times that you don't feel like doing it.
So one way to prepare is, in a sense, get your eyes off of yourself and still come.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I think one thing that stood out to me was that the people had to dedicate themselves before they dedicated the walls. And as I was just thinking through that, something that came to mind was that God wants our hearts. He desires obedience above sacrifice. We see that throughout Scripture. And so I think what God is after is he's seeking our hearts above the things that we have, above the things that we give to him. And so if our hearts are far from him and we're just going through the motions of obedience, I think that can then create a path towards legalism, because that, you can check off the things that you're doing for God when really your heart is not truly God's. And so I think there's probably intention in the order that we see that God called them to dedicate themselves first and then dedicate the wall, because he wanted their hearts before he wanted their things. And ultimately, everything belongs to God. And so, we're not really giving things back to God. He already owns them. They're on loan to us. And so just being diligent to make sure that we're seeking to make sure our hearts are pure before the Lord, before we're quick to give the things that we have back to him.
That's good. I had this question yesterday from someone, and I think you touched on it, Eric, as you were just talking, but somebody asked me the question, what would it look like what would be some signs of, or the fruit of the town church being filled with joy in a way that was heard far away? What would that look like? What would the visible fruit of that look like? I think it's a great question, a question I don't have an answer for, but I'd love to talk about it. I asked the question yesterday in my sermon, what would it be for us? What would it be like for those around us to know that the town church was full of joy because God had made them so? What would that look like? What are the visible signs of that? Thoughts?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just how we love one another. That I go back to this often, but the word says that people will know us by our love. So by the way that we love one another, and not just the people that are easy to love, but the people that are difficult for us to love, and require extra grace, serving
Can
and
you
loving.
name a couple people?
I think
There's
I
one
won't.
of them in the room right now.
Maybe two.
Rhymes with schmerick.
Didn't expect that.
I didn't mean you. It was a different one. Different Eric in the church. But anyway, I think the way that we love one another, and then the way that then that love flows out into the community. I mean, you think about the fact that culture is created in cities, and then it flows down into the tinier pieces of the city, into the
Surrounding areas.
the surrounding areas. And so, as Christians, how are we engaging in the city as a church? And then how is that then flowing into the surrounding areas? And so, people in the world, they need to see Christians worshiping God. They need to see what it means to worship rightly. I think that's the only hope that we have in this world is Christ. And so people need to see what it means to have a favorite sports team but love Jesus more than that sports team. And they need to see what it means to be passionate about
a hobby
or a cause, and yet love Jesus more than that. And that is going to be the thing that's going to change the culture. And I think that's going to be the thing that's going to cause the town to be known for its joy, is the way that we love each other and the way that we love Christ.
Yeah, that's good. A couple things come to mind as you're talking. One is we've already touched on it some. I think it's countercultural for to see people who have walked through suffering come out on the other side without anger and bitterness and some vice that they've grabbed onto. So I think that's one of the ways that the joy of the Lord would be a visible fruit is if, as we've walked through hard things, people see us as those who still have faith in God. Another one that comes to mind is, it came to mind and now it's gone. Oh, there was another
You're
one.
getting old.
I am getting old. I am getting old. I am old.
Oh man, that's twice on this podcast that's happened to you.
No, the other one was yeah, it's gone completely. It came again and left. Is there anything that comes to your mind? Maybe you talk, Eric, and it'll come to my mind.
Yeah,
I'll interrupt you immediately when it does.
Yeah, I think part of it is being excited might be the wrong word, but joyful about the right things. Right? So are we at the town church joyful, excited, encouraged by the things that God is doing among us, some of the fruit of that, the worship of Him, whatever we see, those it just came back to you.
Just came back. Go on, though. Keep going.
Stop immediately, or it's leaving again.
Keep going. I'm going to cross my fingers so I remember.
In addition to, or might I even say, more than those different things, the hobbies, the sports, that sort of thing. So those things that we're really excited about going on are the right things, so to speak.
Yeah. Here's where I was going.
Okay.
And I may get in trouble for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is kind of cliche. You've probably heard it said before that Christians are often known for what they're against and not what they're for. And I think that would be an extremely telling piece of our joy, is if people knew what we were about, what we were for, and not necessarily just wagging our finger at all the people who are doing things that were off. Now, there's a place for truth. There's a place for obedience to Christ. There's a place for even speaking out against those things that are dishonoring to God. I'm not saying we should not be about that, but I think often Christians are seen as those who are only against things. What would it be for? I think the joy of the Lord in us, the visible fruit of that, would be for people to actually see these people are about X, Y, and Z, not against X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna stop it there. This may be our longest podcast yet.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe I'll have to trim it down somehow. No, there's too much way good stuff in there.
It's all free. It's free.
It
so
is
you can
all free.
They can always press pause or stop anytime
or like
they
2 times
want.
speed or whatever.
Hey,
that
you know
double
what? There
speed.
is a listener. I'm not going to say who it is, but his name may rhyme with Nate, who listens to it at time and a half because he wants to get through it quickly.
That's better than, I guess, 0.
Yeah, that's true. Carry on, Nate.
So thank you for listening. Oh, my last question.
Oh.
It's going to take a longer time.
No, we have to
Let's say
ask this
quickly,
last
say
question.
quickly.
Okay, real quickly. What do you see of God in here that raises your affections for Him?
I think the list of people. I said this yesterday, but just the list of people. Everyone's necessary. Everyone's involved. I know the list of. I just got a text as we're doing this from someone saying, "Please tell me you talked through all the lists of people." We blow by those names, but all of those people are necessary to accomplish what God sets out to do. So people like Karen who are moving away, that's going to hurt us as a church. And we need the people who are around, that God would give us that gift of people, and we're all necessary. Go. Quick.
Oh, quick. I think that this isn't quick. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm processing.
It's okay.
The thing that came to mind is the fact that the Lord caused these people to go into exile. They went through a season of severe suffering, and yet He also walked them into a season of delight and joy. And that the things that we go through are seasons, and yet God has seasons of celebration and joy and delight so that we can rightly worship him and we can rejoice in who he is.
Yeah. Mine's really similar. We see in verse 43, right? The result that God gave them of their worship of him was joy. That's the sovereign God of the universe who made us to worship. We talked about that. But then gave us joy as we worship him. Like, it's good for us. It's our good to worship God, and God gives us that. That's the character of God on display for us as a people.
That's good.
It's beautiful.
And it goes back to 8:10 that the joy of the Lord is our strength. You know, that there's actually some sort of supernatural strength in the joy that the Lord gives us.
Yeah.
It's good.
All right, church. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Church might mean plural. I didn't mean to say church.
Yeah. Hey, for our listener, come Wednesday night to our picnic. It'll just be me. It'll be me and you.
We have no idea how many people to expect.
But we'd love to have you.
Yeah, please come Wednesday night, 6:00 at the building. All right, have a great week. Hopefully we'll see you then. We love you.